In the winter of 1934, in a small three-room house in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, my grandmother stood over a black iron pot that had been passed down through 4 generations of women who knew what it felt like to be hungry. Outside, the wind was whipping through the cracks in the floorboards, and the local general store had stopped extending credit 3 months prior. There was no meat in the larder, no milk in the cellar, and only a handful of dried navy beans in a burlap sack. Yet when my grandfather walked through that door after 12 hours of breaking his back for a wage that wouldn't buy boots today, the smell that hit him wasn't the scent of poverty, it was the scent of a feast, rich, smoky, deep, and savory. Today, you can go into a high-end restaurant and pay $45 for a bowl of artisanal bean consommé served with a sprig of rosemary. But those chefs are missing the one thing Grandma had. They try to manufacture flavor, while Grandma was performing a kind of kitchen alchemy. She was making a 5-cent soup taste like a $10 banquet, using a secret ingredient that most of us today throw directly into the trash. This wasn't a spice you could find on a rack. It was something far more humble, far more functional, and far more powerful. We live in an era of disposable convenience. We've been conditioned to believe that flavor is something you buy, rather than something you earn. But for the generation that lived through the Great Depression, flavor was a weapon. It was the only thing standing against their circumstances. Before I reveal the ingredient, we have to understand the 5-cent soup itself. In 1932, a pound of dried beans cost about 4 cents. To Grandma, the bean was the protagonist. It was a slow-motion miracle that required 24 hours of patience. She would soak them, changing the water 3 times, watching as they swelled and softened, preparing to absorb the essence of the pot. Then came the water. Not chicken stock from a carton, but plain, cold well water. The flavor came from what you did to it. She would add a single yellow onion, sliced so thin it would eventually dissolve, adding a subtle sweetness to the earthy beans. If she was lucky, she had a few cloves of wild garlic gathered from the woods. But even then, the soup lacked soul. That is where the secret ingredient came in, the salt pork rind, the cured, leathery skin of a hickory-smoked hog. Grandma treated it like a sacred object. She would score the skin in a diamond pattern to allow the collagen to seep out slowly. As the soup simmered, that rind released gelatin and fat, thickening the water into a rich, silky pot liquor. Modern scientists call it umami. Grandma didn't know the word, but she knew the feeling. It turned starch into liquid gold. The cost? Effectively zero. It was the byproduct of a byproduct, but it turned a 5-cent pot of beans into a luxury. But the rind was only half the battle. Just before pulling the pot off the stove, she reached for a jug of apple cider vinegar. She would stir in just 1 tablespoon. To the untrained eye, it looked like a mistake. Why add acid to a savory soup? That tiny splash acted like a magnifying glass. It cut through the fat, brightened the earthy beans, and made the salt sing. Grandma used fermented apple juice she'd made herself. It cost her nothing, yet it made that soup taste vibrant and fresh. Modern culture might call this unhealthy. In the 50s, government pamphlets told mountain women to switch to processed alternatives. But Grandma knew better. She saw her children's energy. That pot liquor was a dose of minerals that kept the doctor away. The soup was medicine, and it was always paired with a wedge of cornbread baked in a bacon-greased skillet. You didn't use a silver spoon. You used a piece of crusty bread to sop up every single drop of that liquid gold. Grandma could take 3 items, beans, water, and a discarded rind, and create a depth of flavor a modern kitchen cannot replicate. Why? Because she had the ingredient of time. She let the heat work its magic slowly, creating a harmony that can't be rushed. This video is about a mindset. It's about looking at what the world calls trash and seeing a feast. Remember the woman in the 3-room house who refused to be defeated. She proved wealth is what you have in your own pot.